People of Umueze village still remember the night fear itself walked into their land. A night when even the moon hid behind the clouds, because something evil was standing on the lonely bush road. Nobody knew where it came from. Nobody knew who carved it. But the villagers woke one morning and found a dark, tall statue standing at the center of the narrow footpath that led to the market. Its eyes were carved wide open, staring like it was watching everyone. And its mouth was curved into a wicked smile. At first, people thought it was a joke, but everything changed the day Neka, a 17-year-old girl, walked past it. She never reached the market. Her body was found on the road, cold, stiff, and with the same wicked smile carved on her face. After Neka's death, the elders tried to break the statue. They pushed it, hit it, and even tried to burn it, but nothing worked. The wood felt like iron. Some elders swore they heard whispering voices coming from it. Soon, fear took over Umueze. Anyone who passed the statue alone died mysteriously before sunset. Mothers warned their children. Men refused to walk at night. And the village roads became empty. But the statue didn't stop. It wanted more. One early morning, Obina, a 38-year-old palm wine tapper with broad shoulders, deep brown skin, and tired eyes, was returning from the forest. He wore his usual brown wrapper, and sweat covered his body. As he approached the statue, the air changed. The wind stopped. The birds went silent. Obina said he felt something cold touch his back. He turned, and saw the statue's mouth open wider than before. He dropped his calabash and ran until he fell into the village square. He didn't look back. He didn't even breathe well until elders gathered around him. That same day, the chiefs of Umueze called for an emergency meeting. "We cannot survive like this," Chief Odinigbo said. "This statue is not ordinary. It is a spirit that has taken form." But no one knew what to do, no one had the courage to face it, until a stranger walked into the village at sunset. He was a young man in his late 20s, tall, with smooth dark skin, sharp eyes, and braided hair. He wore a red Isaigu top with black trousers, and carried a small leather bag. "My name is Ikomofuna," he said calmly. "And I know why your statue is killing people." The entire village froze. So the evil had a reason. And this man knew it. The story had just begun. Nobody in Umueze knew who Ikomofuna was. Nobody knew where he came from. But the confidence in his voice made every villager stand still. The elders looked at him with suspicion, yet with hope. Chief Odinigbo stepped forward. He was an old man with wrinkles shaped by years of worry and leadership. "What do you mean you know why the statue kills?" he asked. Ikomofuna didn't rush. He dropped his leather bag on the ground gently and looked around the silent square. "The statue is not just wood," he said softly. "It carries a spirit that was awakened because someone in this village broke an ancient law." The villagers gasped. Ezin, Neka's mother, cried out. "What law? Who broke it? Please tell us." Ikomofuna lifted his hand. "Before I speak, I must see the statue with my own eyes." The elders murmured. No one had dared to walk near that road since Obina ran for his life. But they needed answers. And Ikomofuna seemed like their only hope. Obina stood up. His hands trembled as he wiped sweat from his forehead. "I will take him there," he said quietly. "I know the fastest path." Ikomofuna nodded. "Good. We must go before sunset." A heavy silence fell on the people. Mothers held their children tightly. Young boys watched from behind trees. Whispers floated in the air like dust. As Obina and Ikomofuna began walking toward the cursed bush road, villagers followed them from a distance, afraid but desperate to see what would happen. Halfway through the path, Ikomofuna stopped suddenly. He knelt down and touched the ground. Obina looked confused. "What is it?" he whispered. Ikomofuna closed his eyes and breathed deeply. The ground remembers everything, even what humans forget. He pressed his palm harder, and the wind rose suddenly. Leaves rustled. Birds scattered. The road grew colder. Obinna stepped back in fear. Akomafina's eyes opened, sharp and alert. There is a deeper reason for these deaths, he said. And right at this moment, dear listener, if you are enjoying this story and you don't want to miss what happens next, hit the subscribe button so you won't lose the next chapter. Now, let's continue. Akomafina stood slowly. The spirit inside that statue is angry, he said. And angered spirits do not kill without purpose. Obinna swallowed hard. So, someone caused this. Akomafina nodded once. Yes, and the statue will keep killing until the truth is found. Before Obinna could speak again, something strange happened. The statue, still far down the bush road, moved. Just a small shift. But enough for both men to see it. Obinna froze. Akomafina stepped forward fearlessly. The time has come, he whispered. This spirit wants to speak. And the road grew quiet, too quiet. The curse was awakening. Akomafina and Obinna stood still, staring at the statue far ahead on the lonely bush road. It had moved. Even if it was only a little, it moved. Obinna's heart beat fast. Akomafina, we should go back, he whispered shakily. But Akomafina didn't move an inch. His eyes stayed fixed on the statue. No, he said calmly. If we run now, it will follow us. Spirits respect courage, but they chase fear. Obinna swallowed hard. Courage was the last thing he had left. The wind grew colder as they stepped closer. Palm trees bent slightly as if bowing to something invisible. The ground felt heavier with every step. Then Akomafina stopped again. Don't move, he said. Obinna froze immediately. What is it now? Akomafina pointed at the soil in front of them. There were footprints on the ground. Fresh footprints. But not human. They were long, thin, and shaped like sharp claws. Obinna nearly screamed. Something walked here. But we saw no one. Akomafina knelt to examine the marks. The spirit can leave its statue, he said quietly. That means the curse is older, darker, and stronger than I thought. He touched one of the claw prints. The moment his fingers brushed it, a deep rumbling sound rose from the forest, low, angry, and shaking the ground. Obinna grabbed Akomafina's arm. Let us go, this is not normal. Akomafina stood slowly. His face was calm, but his eyes were sharp. It wants to warn us, he said. But we must go closer. Obinna stared at him like he had lost his mind. You want to go closer to that thing? Akomafina nodded. Yes. Because the spirit is not killing for fun. It is demanding something. And until we find what that is, more people will die. Obinna looked back toward the village path. He imagined the frightened faces waiting for them. If they returned with no answers, the deaths would continue. He clenched his teeth. Fine, he said shakily. But if that thing moves again, I am running. Akomafina almost smiled. That is fair. They walked until they stood only a few steps away from the statue. It was taller than they expected, almost twice the height of a man. Its carved eyes looked wet, as if tears had fallen from them. Its wooden chest had new cracks that were not there before. And then, Akomafina reached into his leather bag. He brought out a small white chalk, carved with strange symbols. Obinna blinked in confusion. What is that? Akomafina answered softly, this is not an ordinary chalk. It reveals hidden truth. He stepped forward and touched the statue's chest with the chalk. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then the statue's eyes glowed bright red, and the ground shook violently. Obinna screamed. Akomafina stepped back. A deep voice whispered through the wind, return what was taken. Obina stumbled backward, almost falling over a root. The statue spoke, he whispered, trembling. Ekomofina didn't answer. His eyes were locked on the glowing red eyes of the statue. The wind howled, carrying the words again, return what was taken. Ekomofina's heart raced, but his voice was calm. The villagers, someone took something from the spirit long ago, he said quietly. Something hidden, forgotten, and it wants it back. Obina shook his head. Who could take anything from a statue? It's just wood. Ekomofina shook his head slowly. Not just wood. This statue is alive. The person who made it did not only carve a man. They trapped a spirit inside. That is why it moves, that is why it kills. Obina swallowed hard, staring at the empty forest around them. Then, what do we do? Ekomofina stepped closer to the statue. He knelt again, tracing the cracks with the chalk. First, we find the object it wants. Then, we return it. A cold wind blew through the trees. Leaves fell in swirls, dancing around their feet. Obina shivered. What if we can't find it? Ekomofina looked up at him, face serious. Then more will die. The villagers, your family, my family. Obina's eyes widened. He had never heard him speak like that. The thought of more deaths froze him in place. A sudden noise snapped their attention. A faint scraping sound came from behind the statue. Something small, moving in the shadows. Ekomofina whispered, stay calm, and do not speak. From the dark soil beneath the statue, a small wooden chest emerged. Dust swirled around it as if the earth itself had delivered it. Obina gasped. Where did that come from? He whispered. Ekomofina knelt beside the chest. Perhaps this is the beginning, he said. Perhaps the spirit's first message to us. Obina leaned in. The chest was old, dark wood, reinforced with rusty iron, and carved with tiny symbols almost like scratches from animal claws. The air felt heavier than it had moments ago. Ekomofina opened the lid slowly. Inside, something glowed faintly, a golden amulet, engraved with unfamiliar symbols, warm to the touch. The statue's eyes flared bright red. The wind carried the whisper again, return what was taken. Obina froze. Is that it? That thing? Ekomofina's voice was calm but firm. Yes. This must be returned to where it belongs. Only then will the curse stop. Obina's hands trembled. Then we need to hurry. Ekomofina nodded exactly. And we cannot fail. The sun began to sink behind the distant hills. Shadows stretched across the road, wrapping around the two men like invisible chains. And somewhere in the village far behind them, people were still unaware of the new horrors that were about to unfold. The journey to return the amulet had begun. The sun had disappeared behind the hills, leaving the forest in shadows. Obina clutched the golden amulet tightly. Its warmth pulsed against his hand, like a heartbeat. Ekomofina scanned the path ahead. We must move quickly, he said. The statue's eyes follow. It knows every step we take. Obina swallowed hard. What if it attacks us again? Ekomofina shook his head. It cannot leave the roundabout. But the curse can reach far. We cannot waste time. Then, suddenly, a shadow moved between the trees. Obina froze, whispering, someone's there. A young boy stepped out, bare feet in the dust, eyes wide. Are you bringing it back? He asked. His voice trembled. Ekomofina knelt, lowering his hands to the boy's level. Yes. You know the way. The boy nodded. Follow me. But beware, not all who watch the road are human. Obina's face turned pale. What do you mean? The boy's eyes darted toward the dark forest behind them. There are shadows. They move like men, but they are not men. They want the amulet. Akomafuna rose, holding the chest tight. Then we must be faster than they are. The boy ran ahead, small feet silent on the dusty path, guiding them through the thick undergrowth. The shrine came into view. It was small, made of carved stones, covered with ancient symbols. Smoke rose from an incense burner, curling into the air and carrying the scent of kola nuts and herbs. The walls were painted with red and white patterns, telling stories older than the village itself. Obina stepped inside, and the amulet glowed brighter than ever. Akomafuna raised his hands, chanting in Igbo. The words were strange to Obina, but their power made the air vibrate. Suddenly, the shadows appeared at the forest edge again, their forms twisting. One moved faster than the rest, its eyes molten gold, like the one on the hilltop. It hissed, a sound that made Obina's ears ring. "Hold the amulet high," Akomafuna shouted. Obina raised it above his head. Light shot from the golden medallion, spreading across the clearing, forcing the shadows back. But the larger shadow, the one with molten eyes, began to transform. Its form thickened, muscles bulging beneath the black mist, arms stretching unnaturally. It moved as if it had a mind of its own, ignoring the light. Obina's heart raced. "It's too strong," he shouted. Akomafuna shook his head. "No. The shrine will protect us. The amulet amplifies its power. You must believe." A sudden gust of wind extinguished the incense smoke. Darkness pressed closer, and Obina felt a cold hand brush his shoulder. His knees buckled. From the shadows, a voice emerged, low and menacing. "You dare challenge the curse?" The boy ahead, small, brave, stepped forward. "We will not let you destroy the village." His voice echoed like thunder, startling even Obina. The shadow hissed, retreating slightly, but only for a moment. Its eyes glowed brighter, scanning the shrine, the amulet, and the three of them. Obina felt the amulet pulse violently, as if calling to the shrine itself. Light spread along the carved stones, illuminating symbols that had not been seen for generations. The shadows recoiled, screeching like dying winds. Akomafuna turned to Obina. "Now, we begin the ritual. Stand firm. Do not falter. This is the moment that will decide the fate of Umueze village." The three of them positioned themselves inside the shrine circle. The boy placed his small hands on the stones, Obina held the glowing amulet high, and Akomafuna began the final chant. Outside, the shadows gathered, silent but moving like smoke across the forest floor. The wind carried whispers of fear and warning, but inside the shrine, light and power surged, pushing back the darkness. Obina took a deep breath. He realized the fight was far from over. Whatever had been unleashed by the statue was more than they imagined. And the real test had just begun. The light from the amulet shivered across the shrine stones, but the shadows were clever. They did not attack all at once. They circled, moving silently like dark smoke, their golden eyes fixed on Obina, Akomafuna, and the boy. "Do not falter," Akomafuna whispered, sweat beading his forehead. "The shadows feed on fear. Stand strong, or they will devour everything." Obina gripped the amulet tighter. He felt its warmth pulse through his chest. The boy, small but fearless, repeated Akomafuna's words, chanting along in a trembling voice. The shadows hissed, recoiling from the light, then lunged forward, faster than anyone could see. A sudden screech pierced the night. One shadow shot through the shrine doorway, stretching its arms toward the boy. Obina raised the amulet, and a burst of golden light slammed into the creature. It shrieked and dissipated into mist, leaving only a faint trace of smoke curling into the night sky. But that was only the beginning. From the forest came more, hundreds, it seemed, swirling like a black tornado. They hissed, whispered threats, and clawed at the edges of the shrine circle. Obina realized the shadows were testing them, probing for weakness. Akomafuna lifted his hands, chanting louder. "The spirits of our ancestors, hear us. Protect this village. Banish the darkness that stalks our people. The shrine stones glowed brighter, symbols shimmering as though alive. The boy screamed suddenly, pointing at one shadow that moved differently. It was the largest yet, molten eyes fixed on the amulet. It wasn't just a shadow, it seemed intelligent, calculating. It paused, then darted forward with unnatural speed. Obinna knew he had only one chance. He thrust the amulet toward the shadow, and a wave of golden light burst outward, hitting the figure head-on. The shadow screamed, a sound that rattled the trees and made the ground tremble. But the figure did not vanish. It paused, glaring, then vanished into the forest mist, only to reappear behind the shrine. Akomafuna turned to Obinna. They are testing your faith. The amulet is strong, but it is not enough alone. You must believe, truly believe that light will prevail. Obinna's legs shook, but he squared his shoulders. The boy clutched his small fist, refusing to run. And then, a strange hush fell over the forest. Even the wind stopped. Even the shadows paused. A whisper echoed from the forest edge, soft but clear. The one who awakens the statue will face its master. Obinna felt a chill crawl up his spine. The statue, the one in the center of Umueze village, was not just cast, it had a master. And that master was awake. The shadows surged again, faster this time. Obinna raised the amulet, Ikomafuna chanted, and the boy stood firm. Light met darkness in a battle that seemed to stretch across time itself. And in the distance, beyond the trees, a new figure emerged, tall, cloaked in black, watching the shrine from the edge of the forest. Its eyes glowed like molten gold. Obinna swallowed hard. He knew, deep in his heart, that the real battle had only just begun. The cloaked figure stepped closer, and the air grew colder, heavier, as if the night itself held its breath. Obinna gripped the amulet tightly, its warmth now pulsing like a heartbeat against his chest. Ikomafuna's chants rose louder, filling the shrine with an ancestral force that seemed to push back the shadows. The boy whispered, trembling, Who is that?" Obinna didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the figure, whose molten gold eyes glowed brighter with every step. Suddenly, the ground beneath the statue in Umueze village trembled. Cracks snaked along the base, and the sharp iron blade of the statue gleamed as if alive. It moved. Not a full step, not yet, but a tilt, a subtle shift. The villagers who had gathered across the village could feel it in their bones. Mamas turned into screams. Mothers clutched their children. Traders froze mid-sail. The statue was awakening. The cloaked figure spoke, voice like a low rumble from deep earth. "Obinna, you have awakened the truth. You know nothing of what binds this village. This amulet, this light, it can only delay me. It cannot destroy me." Akomafuna's voice rang out, defiant. "We do not fear you, spirit. The people of Umueze will not bow to your darkness." The figure laughed, a sound that rattled the trees and made the shadows quiver. And then, with a flick of his hand, the shadows surged forward, faster than ever. They weren't mindless anymore, they had intelligence, strategy, and hunger. Obinna raised the amulet, chanting louder. The golden light expanded, forming a protective dome around him, Ikomafuna, and the boy. One by one, shadows collided with the barrier, screeching, writhing, then dissolving into mist. But the cloaked figure was not affected. It hovered above the ground, eyes fixed on the amulet. "You cannot stop me forever," it said, voice low, echoing. "The statue demands blood, and it will have its due." Obinna felt a sharp tug in his chest, as though the amulet itself was warning him. Then he realized, he could not destroy the master, but he could seal it. He began tracing a circle with the amulet, invoking the strongest incantation Ikomafuna had taught him. The shadows screamed, the trees bent, the wind roared, and the statue's iron blade suddenly emitted a brilliant flash of white light. The cloaked figure screamed as it was pulled toward the statue, struggling, writhing, until finally it vanished into the base. The statue settled back into its frozen pose, but the ground remained cracked. Smoke rose from the seams. The village was silent. The amulet dimmed, and Obina fell to his knees, exhausted. The boy ran to him, tears streaming down his face. Ikomofina placed a hand on Obina's shoulder. It is done, for now. But the victory was bittersweet. For villagers had died during the chaos, their names whispered by the wind. Families mourned, and the statue, though still unmoving, seemed to watch, as if remembering every life it had claimed. The next morning, the sun rose over Umueze village, golden and calm. Villagers gathered at the base of the statue. Some knelt, some left offerings. Obina and Ikomofina watched from a distance, knowing the statue's master was sealed, but not gone. And in the shadows, deep beneath the earth, the faint sound of molten gold eyes opening echoed. The village had survived, but it would never forget. The amulet's glow remained, a reminder of courage, sacrifice, and the thin line between light and darkness. And even as life slowly returned, the whispers continued. The statue was not ordinary, and neither was the evil it had carried. Umueze had justice, for now, but the mystery, the supernatural, and the memory of loss would linger forever.